Hello, everybody. Thank you for putting up with me. I totally didn't fall asleep on the sofa. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. Everything's fine. No, no, no. We're unmuted now. Richard's just being an asshole.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Dave is the only person that's here at the minute. So thank you, Dave,
Hello, Dave
for
at the minute.
coming along. We have been having a wee bit of a break. Last week I was at Jim Hall's. There was a wee open mic night over in Jim's.
Yeah, how'd that go? I didn't get a chance to see it.
We'll talk about it later. But yeah, thanks everybody for their patience and putting up with our little bit of a wee bit of a lateness. So saying nothing about that. So yeah, we'll just Richard, how have you been over this last couple of weeks? We were in yours last
Great,
night.
let's get to the Bible.
Yeah, all right then, fine. Fucking skipping all the intro and all the
My
niceties.
personal life doesn't matter, man.
Okay, right. Well, let me see if I can remember this week to do this and transfer and put on the actual fucking thing up on the page because I have a bad habit of forgetting to do that.
Oh, where people can see it? That kind of thing?
Yeah. I have a bad habit of forgetting.
Okay, yeah, that'd be cool.
So Richard, I'm according to you, I haven't checked because I'm totally not running late. We're on chapter 8.
As far as I can tell, we're on chapter 8, according to the last show 13 days ago.
13 days ago. Well, Richard, I will pass over to your beautiful voice while I roll myself a smoke.
I'd love to be able to read it, but I cannot see it.
Oh, well, you see,
You want me
that's
to find my own copy. I'll find my own copy if you want.
Oh, no. We'll get that one of these days. We'll get everything right on the first go. Don't worry.
No, we won't, but that's okay. It's a lot of stuff.
There. How's that?
Oh, look at that. The Book of Revelation.
Hey, big enough for you.
Yeah, it's lovely. Thank you.
Hey, there you go.
I'm just going to jump right in it while you roll your smoke.
Big Zebra says you have to stop pushing me around.
Oh, yeah, I am terrible. Peace and respect, Big Zebra. And when he had opened the seventh, this is the last seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half an hour. And that's pretty close for the English. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God. To them were given 7 trumpets, and we're about to get into the trumpets. Okay, so let's talk about this space of a half an hour. Silence. Try to imagine this, or at least this is how I imagine it for like emotional impact. Let's say you went to a movie like Star Wars or something, right? This great fantasy fiction movie, and you're sitting there in the movie, right? And you're watching the screen, and all of a sudden, without warning, all the actors stop. They stop everything they're doing.
I tell them to unpause the movie.
And they just stand there, like looking at the audience, like staring at the camera, right? And they do that for a half an hour.
Yeah, I'd have shouted at the projector.
Imagine how befuddled everybody would be.
But they would just think it's paused.
You can't pause a motion picture movie.
No, but that would be more preferable in their mind to them actually thinking that the people have just stopped for.
What if they didn't freeze, but they shifted their body weight, they folded their arms, they did other stuff, they blinked, they breathed.
Right, okay.
But they did nothing for a half an hour. Try to imagine what that would feel like. You'd be like, what the hell is this?
Is it literal or is it trying to say something though?
Well, it's never literal. It's trying to say something on top of what it literally reads.
Yes, but what I'm saying is it literally that everybody stopped there in space for half an hour? Yeah, I'm fucking written. I can see that. But
it's in the middle of all this crap, and all of a sudden, without any warning, John's like, oh, write this down. Oh my gosh, don't write that down. Okay, write this down. And then all of a sudden, everything stops and it's silent for half an hour.
So you are taking it literal as silence for half an hour?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look into the words, it's literally what it reads.
Yeah, but it literally says that there's thousands and thousands of men sometimes when we have agreed that it's exaggerating to make a point.
No, I've never said it's exaggerating to make a point. I've said those are really round numbers. They're not exacting numbers.
Yeah, but they're used to describe a certain thing.
Trying to say other stuff at the
Yeah,
same
yeah, I
time.
paraphrase. I'm not quoting you direct,
Yeah.
but you get what I
Oh,
mean.
okay. Yeah.
Would the same thing not be applying here?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to ask you to consider is what is it trying to say? Like, what is this space of a half an hour where like everything's silent? And what would you make of that if you were in an audience, like at a live play or something, and that actually happened?
Well, if that actually literally happened, I would be quite annoyed, as I say. I would assume that it's paused, or I would assume that there's a fault, or you would probably get up and walk away.
What if it was a stage play? You just sitting there going, is this part of the play that everyone doesn't do all the actors don't do anything for half an hour? This part of it?
Well, insane.
Like, what's the bigger joke?
I can't remember what sci-fi show it was or what channel it was, but there was an alien race or whatever, and they were discussing it where silence is important in poetry. And they had a part, I can't remember what episode or whatever it was, where the part of the poem was you actually sat in silence for a day.
A day.
A day.
It's a long poem.
It's a long ass poem, but the whole point of that silence for a day was part of the poem, was part of the actual artwork, Sure. It was set there to make a point. Right,
that's what I'm saying. I think this is like that. I've never heard of that till, I've heard of this, but I've never heard of that. Your example. I'm not up to date on, modern television.
Fuck me, man. I can't even remember. I can't remember what show it is. Star Trek Next Generation is ringing a bell with me, but I don't know if that is it or not. But yes, silence was important. Silence had its own point.
Yeah.
No, it's always a bit like jazz.
So what's the point of silence?
Well, you see, that's the thing, man. Look at jazz and stuff like that there when you're talking about music. It's about the notes that's not played.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's the same sort of idea. Well, it could be the same sort of idea.
What is the idea of not playing notes that belong to the song and playing something else and not playing those notes?
Right. Well, if you're having a giant movie and say the movie came to a conclusion, right?
Yeah.
You would stop and think about the movie. You'd get up. You wouldn't just instantly get up or, walk away or whatever. You're going to think about the movie. You're going to have some time to think about it. So there was silence in heaven for about the space of a half an hour. I know it's not a literal silence, but it could be donating a moment of reflection. It could be donating time for contemplating all of this that has happened. Like the seventh seal has just opened.
Yeah.
Shit's going to happen according to you. So even though there's silence, so to speak, the silence could be the fact that nobody is talking. But the seventh seal just opened. There could be a giant six-armed fucking spaghetti monster climb out of it, and God could be busy for half an hour and not be able to talk.
Okay.
Interesting
thought.
Evil, crazy spaghetti monster that he has to let out to destroy the earth, and that half an hour is where he's get down, calm down, and feeding it his dinner or something. Just because
maybe I'm just not as deep as some people are. Maybe I'm too shallow. But it seems to me that silence is a lack of saying things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there is something to say, but they're not saying it. Just like the seven thunders don't get written down, something like that.
Well, if something, amazing, then you're going to take the time to take it in.
All this stuff is amazing. There's no break. Most people refer to this as probably a drug trip.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on that. I called people out for that last week. I think it was in Richards, and we mentioned Revelations. I mentioned yourself. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's like an acid trip," and I was like, "Man, I'm chapter 8 in. I'm 8 chapters in, and it's not acid trip yet. Does anyone actually?"
It actually is not bad. It makes sense in the reading frame of the chapter. It makes sense. Okay.
I just feel that stating there was a silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. About the space of half an hour is very vague.
It's about a half an hour. It's somewhere.
I know, but that's the way.
25 and 30.
Right, me and
minutes.
you would have a conversation
about a half hour.
Like tonight, you texted me at about fucking 10 to 11 and said, "I'm here. Where the fuck are you?" And I was like, "Shit, I'm asleep. Give me half an hour." And I was here within 15 minutes. I literally didn't mean half an hour. I thought it would, this, that, and the other. But we're having a conversation.
Sure.
This is epic.
But that was a casual conversation. This is supposed to be the word of God.
Exactly. So being could be about a half an hour doesn't seem very word of God-y. Seems very unepic. You know, seems very vague.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Silence for a vague about a half an hour. It's kind of shrugged off.
I would like to know the exact translation of that. About the space of half an hour.
Let me look it up for you now.
If you're real quick about it.
I could do it in a fair amount of time, I suppose.
Yeah, well, there's zebras pointing out. You know, how did they know how long a half an hour was? Did we all have the exact same system? You know, was it transferred around? Did no watches?
Well, we're not talking about people in the ancient Near East again. Again, we're not. I'm saying we're not talking about that.
Still, it's very vague in the about the space of half an hour.
Uh-huh. Let's see. It's in Greek, of course. The literal about the space of is actually only one word, hos.
Does it mean approximate or?
Well, hold on. It means as, like, even, or etc. The idea is like as, or even as, or like, or unlikened to, or probably adverb comparative of G3739, which would be another Greek word, which how, i.e., in the manner of, very variously used as follows: about, after, according.
So we could accept about the space. What about the time frame?
Sure. And it's the Greek word hemiorion.
What?
No, that's how it's hemiorion. I know that sounds weird as anything.
And is that a defined space of time in the Greek?
It literally means a half of an hour. So about half an hour is fine translating. It's absolutely fine.
Right, so they're all sitting there. So half an hour's went past. I've picked my jaw back up from all this amazingness.
Yeah.
And we move on.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in that line.
Okay, so here's my take on it. This is not saying something for a half an hour to express that there are other things that they could express. And they're not going to say it.
Say that again, right?
This is where in the story would be a good place to like describe our future in heaven. This would be a great place for that. And it doesn't.
Probably at the very start, before all this mad shit happened, I could guarantee, if you told me that I was guaranteed a place in heaven and all this stuff was happening, I would be more susceptible.
All you have to do is accept it. You are guaranteed.
But I would find it more poignant at the start of the message, not 8 chapters in.
Well, that's too bad, because we're wrapping up this section, and we're about to go into the next section.
Well, if it's the end of a section,
this is wrapping up the seals.
Well, I have, but it's still all one story.
Yeah, but it's wrapping up this expressive set.
It wrapped up beasts. It wrapped up fucking angels. It wrapped up candlesticks.
Yes, there's a lot of topics, I know.
But it never had a stand around for half an hour.
That's right. This is the only time anywhere in the text at all. It does appear in other religions in the same scene. But anyway. Okay, so seventh seal, space of a half an hour of silence. I think that's I ain't telling you. And I saw the seven angels. I do speak English and I do read it.
Sometimes.
Which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer. A censer, for those who don't know, is like a king's staff. It's like a rod about so long that's fancy.
Oh, I know what
it's
you're talking about.
It's not a walking stick or something.
Yeah.
And there was given unto him much incense. that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne, and the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. In some translations, it says that they are, the smoke is the prayer of saints.
Right.
Okay.
Right. In this period, I know you say we're not talking about ancient Middle East, but it's my reality, so to speak. Would incense have been a major part of their religion?
Oh, historically, religions? Yes.
And say for talk's sake, the Catholic Church, when they walk up and down the fucking aisle and they're swinging.
This is what they're imitating. You're right. That's exactly what they're doing. They're doing a stage play of the Book of Revelation at Catholic Mass. That's precisely correct.
What is the point of it for them? What is the spiritual
representation? They don't know.
They don't know.
They're imitating this book. That's what they're doing every Sunday, is imitating this book.
Are you sure that incense has never been used before in the Bible? Or a cup's nearly a match.
Am I sure that? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, all the Bible fits into the Book of Revelation. You know that I believe that. And that all of the Book of Revelation, which contains all the rest of the Bible, fits between days 6 and 7 in Genesis. So it's kind of like super, super vague, a little bit more definition, really, really defined in a short time frame. That would be the Book of Revelation. So it just keeps getting more and more, to me, informationally dense and brief.
Right. Number one, I'm not a Catholic, right? I would have been born a Protestant. Right. Wouldn't have went to mass.
Still a great observation.
Except for funerals and shit like that there, right? So we didn't have this swinging of incense.
Right.
The way I always, never that I walked out and asked, never that it was explained to me, because as you say, they don't know what I'm talking about.
Right. They'll say some silly crap that doesn't make any sense, really.
Well, the idea of the smoke, right, and the essence and the smell being around, for me, it was always a symbolism. It was always, What's it symbolic of, though? Right. Well, say for talk's sake, you've got the priest. He's got his incense, and he's walking up, down through the congregation, halfway through during his sermon. He's just had a little pause of, say, a space of a half an hour while he's got himself ready. And then he walks up and down the congregation, spreading this smell amongst the people.
Yes.
Right. So that's I am God in smoke form being spread out around all the people.
That was real close. He is playing the part of God there. You're right about that. Now, what's the big smoke? What's the big deal about smoke in the Bible?
As I say, from the representation of what I always took from it was it's, he is spreading his word of God through the people and using the smoke as symbolism to go to the people. Plus, whenever you leave church...
That's very Christian of you. Smoke in the Bible represents burning the earth. That's why there's smoke in the temple, and the seat burns forever and ever, and the smoke roseth up as a chimney, as a great furnace. Smoke is talking about this earth burning. And it says, and it will end in fire. I mean, it says it directly. So that's why you get the funny smelling stuff all burning, and why that's the prayer of the saints. It's why the saints want it. They want the end of the earth.
Right. Well, you see, the next line, he takes the fire of the altar and casts it into the earth. So we've just made a reference of the smoke. Yes. No, I don't see.
He's catching it on fire. That's the whole point.
But the symbolism in this, the smoke of the incense, prayers, the smoke is on the altar, and then he takes the fire of the altar and throws it onto the earth. If the earth was the altar, or if the earth was the fire and the smoke, how could you throw it onto itself?
Well, the earth is the altar, which is why when you go back to the beginning of the story and you read how to build an altar,
it can't be the altar. It can't be.
It is.
It can't be in this sentence, because you were taking.
It is.
No, you're taking something from the altar and casting it to the earth. So I'm taking it from here and sending it to here. This and this.
Like from God's altar to this altar, from the real altar to the fake one.
Well, it doesn't say it's fake altar. It says earth.
Well, the earth is a way to make an altar, but it's not a proper altar.
It's right, but it doesn't say that. That's an inference that you're making.
No. In the book of, hold on a second, Deuteronomy or is it Leviticus? It tells you how to build an altar, and you have to build it out of remember the stone argument, that stone means Bible, my stone argument. The other thing you can build an altar out of is literal dirt, earth.
Right? I know that, yeah.
And it has to have 4 corners. That's the 4 cardinal directions. It's a description of the planet. So this is like a lesser altar, if you will.
I can understand that you see that.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to say that's what I see.
I just have problem with it being the fire of the altar cast onto the earth, with the two of them being an altar. You know, it doesn't say that earth's an altar. It says earth.
Yeah.
One altar, and it's the smoke and the smell, and they cast it onto earth.
Let's just go with that. Never mind the other reference to altar being made out of earth. Never mind that. Forget it. Okay, so let's look at this again, and I will try to look at it through your eyes.
But that's what I'm just. It's the smoke is a representation in the religion, right? Not necessarily in this, but this is where I'm getting it from.
That.
As it being
that's kind of backwards.
Permeated.
This.
Well, I haven't, man.
The idea of in religion, smoke coming as part of the universal idea of the end of the planet, and the idea of fire, it's all about the powerful ones, the demigods, the archangels, whatever, burning up this planet and ruining it.
But it's not backwards, because I'm telling you where my reference comes from. My reference may come from something that appeared after this, and this may be older. But my reference point is my introduction to this came after my introduction to religion. This is happening right now, and the past is the past, and it influenced where I'm coming from.
Oh, are you talking about? That's why I'm confused. You're talking about actual history of the planet and actual like history of religions, right?
I just feel that the incense is a representation of the Word of God being permeated through people.
Well, it would represent that, because if this stuff happened, everybody'd be like, oh crap, look, it's real.
Well, obviously, if aliens came, we'd all be, oh crap, it's real. But that's, I don't know where that, I don't understand your leap from what I said to there.
Okay, we're having an impasse of some kind. This happens sometimes. It's okay. We'll figure it out.
But anyway, you see my point, I see your point.
No, I'm not sure I do. So religions used burning stuff, including burning people, in sacrificing animals and plants and everything else, burning stuff, as a way to honor their God, right? And that makes sense if the honorable thing is end times. Okay. Now they shouldn't do it because they got the wrong idea. It's not theirs to do that.
People do sacrifices on an altar, not to stop or celebrate the end of the world, but to...
Yes, I know. You gain all things at the end of the world.
Yes, but that's, you're just adding this other stuff.
No, it's just like the rain dance is a tradition in a certain religion or a couple different religions, right? And rain is talking about prosperity and plants growing and stuff and having enough food and having all the children you want and stuff like that. It's trying to describe a perfect situation that just never happens. But that perfect situation would be, we're in heaven. That would be the perfect situation that it's talking about overall. It wouldn't be, oh, it rained. That's great, but that's not the point. So in the same way,
I understand where you're coming from, and you're still fighting your point, but you're not being open to mine.
I don't get yours.
Imagine that a cloud was an alien species that infected you by touching you, and we filled the room with a cloud. Everybody would then be infected. You understand that?
Got that. Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Representation of incense being the word of God, and as it goes around the room, it infects everybody in the room. It's a representation, a symbolism, an actual physical smell. These people have been around the word of God.
Right. Well, a lot of religious folks look at the whole symbology of smoke that way.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's where I see the symbolism of it.
I'm just saying that's half the... Yes, but it's half the story. It doesn't explain why. It doesn't explain why that would be true. It's just it's a thing that happens and you can't fight it.
This particular line doesn't explain it to me unless you add all these other wee things in where we change earth to altar, and then altars now represent the end of the world with the four corners.
Say I'm changing it, I'm not changing it.
Not being an ass. Just, you understand what I mean when I say that. You did say...
Well, I am adding a lot of context to that's true. I have to.
Okay, you're adding your wee bit till this line to give it more definition in your belief system.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this one particular line doesn't say that.
It doesn't say what?
Well, it doesn't say we took it off one altar and threw it onto another. It says we threw it onto the earth.
Right.
And you're taking the earth as an altar.
Well, never mind. I said never mind that.
And moving on.
and the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of saints, or are the prayers of saints in a greater translation, ascend up before God out of the angels' hands. This is because they want us to be part of their community. They want to end the planet. They want us to accept all this stuff. So that is the quote unquote prayers of saints, that this should happen. And the smoke is representative of stuff burning, that causing smoke. An angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar. Fire of the altar. A lot of people read that as fire from the altar. Okay. And I understand that it's read that way a lot. It's not what it says.
Okay, well, would you describe to me the difference if you had an altar and I took the fire of it, or I took the fire from it? Where is the fire coming from? It's an
the power of God is probably the best answer right now.
Well, what's the difference between the fire of the altar and the fire from the altar? You tell me.
Okay, from means you took it out of something greater. That's what from means.
Or, well, from something else.
I withdrew $1 from my checking account, for instance.
Right.
Okay.
But that not necessarily one thing greater. You can take something from something.
It doesn't. It's extracted from something, and the other thing still exists somehow.
Okay. Right.
Whatever that is. Okay. Because if you take all of it, you didn't take from it.
Right. I get
what you mean.
There
would be nothing left.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And to take of instead of from is, I know you could read that the same way. I know you can. I don't recommend it in this case.
This is why I'm asking you.
It's the fire of the altar. It's a kind of fire. It's not a place that the fire comes from. It's the kind of fire of the altar. He took the fire of the altar.
If I said you took of my flesh.
Yeah.
Right?
That's out of. Yeah.
Right. It's same as this.
That's from.
No, if you took of my flesh. If you took of my flesh. I'm not saying from.
The way you're using that is it's a portion of.
I'm just showing that it can be used that way.
I didn't say you can't read it that way. I said I can see how you can read it that way. But it doesn't work in context. It's describing the kind of fire, calling it the fire of the altar. That's the kind of fire he has.
You just said yourself.
It's not fire from the altar or out of the altar.
5-10 minutes ago.
Fire of the altar.
5-10 minutes ago, you just said that they're going to burn the earth and smolder it up.
Which is a kind of altar, yeah.
Fire. You're going to have to do that. You need fire.
That's how it ends. Fire. I don't
understand.
No. Can you
I don't
not understand
see
what I'm saying?
Right, okay.
Wait. Are you arguing your case, or can you not understand me?
I sort of in a roundabout way asked a question without asking it. I'll ask the question directly.
Yeah, okay? Go ahead.
Filled it with fire of the altar and cast it to the earth. 10 minutes ago, you're talking about burning the earth, right? Yep. You're saying that this particular line doesn't have context, and to give it context, you must make it a special type of fire. If I am talking about burning something, I don't need a special type of fire. I can just do it with fire. So I don't see the context of adding a type of fire to it to change the way that the usage of the altar instead of from the altar is.
Okay, you're looking at it like I'm pulling a stick out of a campfire, right? And I'm saying that doesn't work grammatically here, and it doesn't work in context. And here's what does work.
It does work grammatically.
Instead of, depends on how. Okay.
If I read it your way,
I don't get to finish that thought. I'm trying to paraphrase it so that we can communicate. I think I understand what you're saying. From, as in out of, like there's some remains. Right? That's from. And that's the way you're reading is from. Which is, I can see reading it that way. I really can. I'm not saying it's impossible. Right? But I don't think it works very well. And I think this, what I'm about to say, does work very well. Here it is. It's not a stick out of the campfire. It's electrical arc instead of natural burning. It's a different kind of fire. This kind of fire is fire of the altar kind of fire.
Get exactly.
Okay, so we did have communication. Okay, cool.
I get exactly what you're saying, right? So we've got fire, and then whenever you said it, I thought green flames, special type of fire, right? A different type of fire. I thought that's what I had in my head. You've got a different type of fire, right?
Oh, okay.
So I understand where you're coming from, right?
All right, fine.
What I'm saying is, you're seeing the special type of fire because you're reading it as that definition that you just give me because of that line. And you say that it needs to be added for context to make sense. But if you didn't add your particular individual reading of it, you could read it as far from the altar, and it would be in context because it's burning the earth, and it would make sense. And it wouldn't. Your context is needed for it to align with what you're saying.
Or the other way around. The context causes me to say what I'm saying.
Yes, but most people don't read it that way.
Well, I know. That's what makes this show different.
I'm just saying, you're telling me it's wrong because it needs context. And if we didn't have your religion, we wouldn't read it that way.
I know you wouldn't read it that way.
You're seeing what you want to see in the lines. And you have
I'm
added...
seeing what I think I have to say. Never mind what I want. I'll tell you what I want. Fast motorcycle, hot woman.
You said it better.
Maybe she's got a little bit of an alcohol problem.
What you said,
pretty convenient.
You said it better yourself. You read it the way you have to read it.
Well, in this context, in my brain, it's the only way that I know how to read it.
It's read that specific way with a wee addition that only you can give to give that representation of the sentence. Another person could walk in and take their interpretation and not be a Christian one either and be another crazy alternative, and they would read this line and they would come up with something different because of their context if they did the same thing rather than like literally reading it.
Okay, what was translated as of the, it's not of. The word of is not there. The idea of isn't even there. It's actually in the Greek ho, which is a definite article meaning that exact one. The. It's not of the altar, it's fire the altar. They added that word of. It does not exist.
Have to make that when you do translations, you have to translate into a
No. They translated using their presuppositions from their existent churches when they did the translations.
Fire
that's
the earth.
Problem that I have with the King James and all of them in the first place.
Well, this is the King James version, as far as I know.
No, I know it's close enough, but I'm telling you, like, I mean, I could, if you want to share my screen, I'll share screen with you, but it's the Greek ho, which is a definite article meaning the. This, that, these. The. So there is no of.
If you were to read that line, you read it to me then.
Fire the altar. It's
Filled
a kind
it
of
with
fire.
Fire the altar. Fire the altar on its own may make something, but there's a whole sentence there.
Yeah.
Filled it with fire the altar.
Actually, it isn't there either. But and it's more like angel took censer, not and the angel took the censer, and that those words aren't there.
Read it to me. Read it to me then, as you would read it.
Angel took censer. That's an easy idea. Filled fire the altar. Cast to earth. Into is wrong. Cast to earth.
Just sounds like I'm talking to the Polish guy at work.
Well, yeah.
But broken English is I know, but I'm just to make an analogy. Broken English is still English. It's just missing a few words, but it's the key words that they hear. But if I was to speak,
yeah, but our whole argument was the word "of," which doesn't exist.
And I'm saying that they have to put in certain words so that the actual sentence translates to a coherent.
Tell me why it reads "of" there.
Well, it just makes more sense without adding.
Wasn't it from?
It is of. I'm not disagreeing with you. What it says.
No. What, do you realize how many things they could have put right there to make that coherent in English or easy in English? It's coherent anyway.
It makes logical sense if you have an altar on fire that you take from it.
Why it could read?
It doesn't make sense normally if you take something from a fire and it's a different type of fire. I don't expect
still staying with that idea. That
I
idea
understand.
Is not there.
To use your analogy, I understand that when you go to the campfire and you grab that lump of wood and you pull it out,
that's of or from,
right? But you're expecting it to, whenever it comes out, to be a blue flame, to be a green flame, to be a spark, to be a different type of fire. That's not what normally happens.
What do you mean that's not what normal? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Use your analogy, Richard, that you used.
No, I said it's a plasma and it's not a burning stick. It's a different kind of fire.
Right, but that's
not from a known fire. It's a kind of a fire.
Well, if you're going to move it, whether it's a kind of fire or not, you're going to have to. I'm going to describe grabbing it and taking it from wherever it is.
Because they remove the oceans. That's what causes this fire. It says it in no uncertain terms. That's how they cast fire to the earth, is by removing the oceans. The earth's already hot in the middle.
And it says here, you're reading in this bits that we've just read. Oh God, the naked one has arrived.
What?
The naked one. The naked HD XYZ that strips with their clothes off.
Oh, that. Yeah, well.
You're reading that the oceans are wiped out in these lines that we've just read. I asked
that's what the fire of the earth is caused by. And there were no more sea, and the mountains melt like wax. Lake of fire.
You're saying it with such enthusiasm as if I'm stupid for not knowing this, right? I understand that you...
But you do know it. You're not stupid for not knowing it. You do know it. And it's not like we haven't talked about this several times. You know exactly what causes this fire.
Yes, but Richard, if we've talked about it maybe once or twice, that's fine. Me and you talk about an awful lot of things in your religion, and I put them all in one box of your religion.
That's fine.
Whenever you think about it, you don't think about it as your religion. You're thinking about, this is my box for Genesis. This is my box for this. You've got 50 boxes. So that one fact gets lost in my giant box of Richard, where you have a filing system where you can go straight till it. So it's more poignant in your mind.
That's fair.
So it may take me a while. But yes, I know that we've discussed this before, but I don't read that here. In a previous reading and in a previous discussion, I would have maybe agreed with you or disagreed with you at the time. I don't remember. But I would have had context in what we were reading then. What we're reading now, I don't see any burnings of the oceans.
Let's read the rest of 5 and see if you'll at least agree with me on another small point. The angel took the censer, filled it with fire of the altar, cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. I'm going to assert that that is a synopsis of all of end times.
Okay.
It's telling the whole story just in 5.
I can
Sure, it's
see
only
how
the
you would see that.
highlights.
I can see how you can see that.
I mean, the thunderings aren't happening right now. The lightnings aren't happening right now. The earthquake isn't happening right now. And the casting of the fire isn't happening right now. Although Christians will normally assume that it's all that's going on right then. But I think that's an overview. Because you got all the major events right there.
I can see where you would see that, yes. But I can also
Okay.
see where it doesn't specifically, it is open and vague enough to be a first instance. They've just been handed trumpets, and fucking thunder and lightning, and there's a big ass earthquake. It would be an earthquake.
Right.
We've already discussed about how gravity's going to fuck everything up already.
Yeah, well, there's going to be issues with
Yeah.
lack of oceans, no doubt.
But you can't defend. There's nothing that says to me 100% that is a synopsis. I can see that, and it can be read that way.
Okay.
I will agree with you in that.
Okay.
I don't think you're adding anything there where I did before. In that particular
Okay.
line, I don't think you're adding that, and you can interpret it that way.
Okay. So this happens 3 times throughout the book of Revelation. Every time there's a change of series of events, it does one of these overviews. No, it does one of these overviews. I mean, like almost exactly. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and a great earthquake. Like every time, it's 3 times in the book.
Right. Well, then I don't. Well, then if it happens 3 times, then possibly at the first reading, I could take it as a synopsis.
Yeah. Well, every time there's a topic change, they do this.
Yeah, a topic change. So something is right. We're having the book. People describe Revelations as the apocalypse, the end of the world, and all that.
Sure.
We're at Revelations 8 now, where the actual shit's happening to the earth, where the actual apocalypse is starting to be described. And
Right on.
if every time they do a topic change, this happens,
Right.
I can see that as being part of the story because it's happened multiple times.
Right.
We did a synopsis at the start. People do that in papers. You've got your first paragraph. This is the basic shit about the paper. Then there's the paper. That's a synopsis. They wouldn't do that 3 times.
It depends on how many different topics there are in one paper.
But it's still a description of one thing.
Okay, if it weren't a description of only one thing, there might be multiple reasons to do an overview.
I don't see the
You might
point.
do an overview several times. Let's say you did 3 papers and there's one overview per paper, and you put them all 3 in a row.
And I would
Well, you
take the
still
other
have the
2 out
overview.
because
You take the overviews out.
Well,
Fair enough.
No. You
Fair
would
enough.
take them 2 out and you would write 1 at the start.
Fair enough. It's not done that way, apparently.
Okay.
Maybe
see?
that would be the right thing to do for like a transcription of an actual, like a scientific paper. I don't know. Maybe you're right. But in this case, you're going to see it 2 more times after this.
Right. Well, we'll have this same conversation after the 3rd time and we'll see. Because going into it, if you say the same thing to me 3 times, it doesn't seem like a synopsis part of the story. Because they do that in the Bible. They repeat things for poignancy to make it come across to you. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening. They don't go, this is a synopsis of the whole thing that happened. This is a synopsis of the whole thing that happened. It's like, this is happening, this
Right.
is, it's,
Well, it does it here between the seals and the trumps, right? And then it does it between the trumps and the vials.
We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. Right, we've got the trumpets.
We will see. You're right.
I haven't read it.
Because we will read that part.
This is the
But
point
anyway,
of fucking
okay.
reading the damn thing.
There you have it in a nutshell. And besides, if it were a completion of the thing, 6 wouldn't make any sense. And the 7 angels, which had the 7 trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. They haven't done a damn thing yet.
Yeah, they haven't done a thing
Okay.
yet. Right, okay.
They haven't done anything yet.
So
They're just
we've had
prepared.
the angels, right? The angel set fire to the earth, and there were voices, right? The 7 angels prepared themselves to sound. It said there seven ugh, 777 angels and trumpets and all the shit. Give me a second, right? So there was voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing an internal critique of yours and making a different reference, why can it not be the angels flying down to earth getting ready and screaming, we're all going to fucking save these people, right? There's your voices, the thunderings, the lightnings, the earthquakes, the mass.
Because that wouldn't cause an earthquake?
I said that, right? No, I'm saying that happens.
It would cause all the rest, though.
Then,
you're right.
Oh, please let me finish my thought now. So the angels are screaming and they're coming down. That's your voices, that's your thunderings, that's your lightnings, that's your earthquake. But the earthquake's caused by the spaceships in the sky because gravity's going to fuck everything up. And the 7 angels with their 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Prepared themselves to sound is, to me, preparing to use the trumpets. So I will disagree with the statement that they haven't done a goddamn thing yet. I'm saying what they could have done is come flying down to earth, screaming and shouting. Prepared themselves to sound literally only means that they are getting ready to blow their trumpets.
Right. They haven't blown them yet. That's what I mean by done a thing. They haven't done a thing yet. They haven't done it. Whatever their thing is to do.
They haven't blown their trumpets. That's it.
Right. Right. They have trumpets, but they haven't blown them.
Yeah.
And that's what's about to be talked about, is each of the trumpets being blown and what happens.
Okay. I was saying that to disagree with your statement that they haven't done a goddamn thing.
Well, they have prepared, obviously, it says so, but they haven't done the thing yet. They're only prepared to do the thing. That's what I'm saying by haven't done anything. It was too colloquial. I shouldn't have said it that way.
Right. Okay. Go on ahead. First angel.
And then the first thing with the first trumpet, right? And what was it? Hail and fire mingled with blood. So some blood in it. And they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass were burnt up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's the kind of fire that will kill some people and catch on, some plants on fire. It's that kind of fire. But it's also the kind of fire that produces hail.
Hmm.
Okay. So the only hail that I know of that's associated with fire is burning rocks falling from the sky from an active volcano. And it fits with other descriptions. I mean, there's more in the text than just this.
All right, I'll give you that. If shit's on fire, it's got to be glowing rocks. It's not going to be... And something in real life that could happen, that would happen at, naturally, would be a volcano.
There is another option I know of. Meteor storm.
That's where I went first.
Is that where you went first? Meteor storm?
I was thinking meteors.
Yeah. I mean, a meteor storm would definitely have that kind of an effect.
Yeah,
Some people would die. There'd be blood mingled with it if it was intense enough and hit the right spot, right?
Well, I don't know if... Right.
Can definitely cause forest fires.
Hold on. We're talking about the hail part. The whole fire mingled with blood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that apostrophe isn't there.
The bottom apostrophe? The southern apostrophe there? Yeah. Of course it's not there.
And fire mingled with blood would just be people burning up.
I don't know why you're reading that as the phrase.
And fire
instead of hail and fire. Is hail and fire the phrase?
Hail
or
and
is
fire.
Fire mingled with blood the phrase? What's that?
I agree with you in that, but we just went through what we think hail could be, so we're now addressing the second part of it. Okay. And if I'm talking about fire and blood, to me, that part, because we just broke down what we thought hail would be, we didn't read it as hail and fire, but we read it as, with
some
contact.
Kind of hot rocks falling from the sky, yeah.
So I'm reading this as people on fire.
Fair enough, yeah.
That's it. So there's hail falling
Okay.
from the sky, reminiscent of what would happen at a volcano, and there's flames to the point where people are catching fire.
Yes, that's essentially it. Of course, some of them could get hit by these hot things falling from the sky.
Yeah.
This hard hail, burning hail thing.
Buildings are going to catch fire. You're going to turn around, some guy's going to come running out of a building on fire, you know. Yeah.
Could be. I think it will happen somewhere at some time during this event. That's pretty much it. There's two real possibilities that I know of. And since there is a quaking of the earth and then a great quaking of the earth, and that this is the first event, and the quaking of the earth is the first event, and somewhere else it says a cloud that shadows 1/3 of the earth, and put all that together as the first event, you get a pretty clean picture, and it eliminates, hailstorm. I'm sorry, meteor storm. It eliminates that and in my opinion, defaults to volcano, which is why I think this is describing Yellowstone, an eruption of the volcano Yellowstone.
Okay, so you've jumped. I can see in the context.
It's the only one big enough on the planet active right now. Or potentially active. It's not active. It's inactive. They say something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that this had happened. I don't necessarily if you were trying to convince me and convince me of this, right? I'm going to create a new doctrine where I don't believe that it's Yellowstone. You have to convince me of that. Even under your belief system, you would still have to convince me, because if you've all these fucking planets or all these giant-sized spaceships, gravity is going to be so fucked up. The Earth is going to be ripping itself apart. You're not going to need.
So long as they're stupid.
You're not going to need Yellowstone to explode, because fucking half of fucking Britain's probably going to rip apart because of the gravity. You know.
You ever heard the argument? Someone said to me on Atheist Edge, actually, they said, dude, we've got 2 atomic clocks, and we've got the year down to, and when we know the 21 cosmological constants to within 1 part in 10 to the 12th power.
Get your point.
And we've got all this technology. Don't you think we also have this right? And I'm like, no, that's a non-sec. That's exactly what a non sequitur is. They're
what, right?
Unrelated topics. What's that?
The atomic clock's relevant to what being right? What jump did you make there?
I don't even remember what the guy said. I was so outraged by the thought. I can't remember.
Then I can't tell you whether it's relevant or not. So I know you're.
It was irrelevant. It was irrelevant. He was talking about dependability of technology. Oh, wait. He was talking about a very specific idea concerning the human genome, but it's beside the point. He actually said something that was false. He said it's not a code. It is literally a freaking code. But that's beside the point. Okay, so, oh gosh, now I'm so distracted. I'm completely off topic now. What was the point? What were we reading here? Burn up all the
hail catching fire. And I was saying to you that even if I was in your religion, I'm going to create a new doctrine where I believe that these things are happening because the Earth's ripping itself apart. So it's happening all.
Oh, the gravity thing. I'm not committing the same fallacy. Dude, if our ancestors from off of this Earth can cross one galaxy, you think they can't avoid ripping the planet apart? You think they don't know how to keep that from killing us?
I just don't want to make the assumption, because the laws of physics under our understanding as they are now say no.
No, they don't.
They don't say no.
That is factually not true.
Okay, I was very colloquial. Oh, sorry about that. You're assuming.
When we launch a space shuttle, it doesn't change the Earth's orbit.
We don't launch a spaceship the fucking size of the moon. And bigger.
And if we knew how, then we'd figure out before we did it how to not throw the orbit off.
Or we would build it in space because it's fucking huge.
Or we'd be freaking dead.
You're not going to build a planet-sized thing. You're not going to build a fucking planet-sized spaceship on the planet. That would just be silly.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, it would. You'd build it over there, out of the reach.
Yeah, well, I would think so.
No, gravity. Like, who knows what'll happen when we fucking put gravity and quantum gravity together? We don't
Well,
know. They may be
I
able
don't
to
know.
do this. They
It's
may be able to do
I don't
this.
know how they avoid that. Maybe it's maybe it's some kind of propulsion. Like they push the Earth away from themselves, so to speak.
I don't know. Maybe they've anti-gravitons everywhere.
I don't know stuff like that, and I don't even know if those things exist. And
No, I'm just
we're
making
looking
shit
for all
up.
kinds
I'm
of
making
stuff.
shit up.
Well, I don't know. You could be actually like
Ah,
onto something. I wouldn't
all
know the
I'm
difference,
saying
but
is you're assuming a big thing.
I'm assuming they can avoid killing us while they save us. It seems like a reasonable assumption.
And I'm saying that with them being here will cause this all over the earth, and they
Well,
have
if it does, we're
and
screwed.
they have learned just to get close enough to cause damage, but not close enough to rip it apart instantly. But they have got
Actually, it
close
says
enough.
how far.
They have got close enough just for their gravity to fuck everywhere up
Okay.
and not destroy the planet straight away, because they're spheres and they can do it at an equal distance all around it. And I'm starting a new doctrine where I don't believe it's Yellowstone. I've got a new Richard
Okay,
Christian.
that's fine.
That's what you're arguing over, right? I made a
Help
joke and this
yourself.
is what you're arguing over, but
No, not really.
but yeah,
No,
yeah, we're gonna call it Demolish Richard, not Demolish
just
Doctrine.
FYI, according to the story, they hover at 3,000 feet from the surface, not general altitude, but from the surface.
So you're
Wherever they are
taking that
centered at.
literal and assuming and adding other stuff in other places.
It literally says 3,000 feet.
Exactly. So you're reading that as literal, but earlier in this, you are adding
There's
things.
nothing.
Earlier in this, you are adding things from your religion to give context so it lines up. So that's what I'm saying. You're adding things to make it make sense, and other things you're reading literal.
I don't know how you would avoid that.
And you're picking some. I could use the phrase that you're reading some things as literal and some things as not, and picking and choosing to match your
course.
religion.
Well, yes, of course. I don't know how a person could read something not doing that.
How do you tell the difference?
Context. You either have a continuous context that works for all of it, or you don't.
How do you know when and when not to take the numbers literal? 3,000 could also be said as a massive big number and a description of just a relative point in the sky, as same as
Could
all
be.
we have discussed with before. 3,000 could
Sure.
not be miles, it could be kilometers, it could be fucking light years. We don't know.
Sure, and it's feet.
Feet, fuck me, that's not that fucking far at all. Like,
Yeah, like you could hit it with a gun.
you know, 3,000.
3,000 feet straight up, you could shoot a gun at that.
That's yeah. So how do you think that you were taking that literal because in your mind you see the spaceships in the sky rather than the spaceships so far out you don't see them? Do you physically, when you think about it, see them in your mind hovering in the sky coming down through the clouds?
Of course, I see them that way.
And the
That's what that
distance for
painting
that,
is.
the distance for that would be closer to literal 3,000. So to match up with what you have going on in here, you're taking that part literal. That's the context.
Let me back up why I say this. Okay, it shouldn't be or can't be 3,000 miles, for instance. Okay, because if it was 3,000 miles away, or kilometers away, or even fathoms, or even furlongs away, if it was that far away, it would not cast a shadow that everyone was under. It wouldn't block out the sun, because the sun's really big. I know it's far away, but it's really big.
And you can hold your finger up and cover it with your thumb at the right
Sure,
distance.
at 1 meter away, 3/4 of an inch will cover the sun, because at 1 meter away, it's a half inch.
They're a big ass, massive ship.
Yes, but it's claiming this all over the whole planet simultaneously. It's claiming to
Hold on,
shade
hold on.
the planet.
Okay, they're blocking the sun from the whole planet.
Yes.
Richard, half the fucking planet's already blocked from the sun because it's pointed the other
That's a
way. They only
fact.
have to block half of it. So they can say
Yeah,
they can block
that's
the
true.
sun from the whole Earth. The whole Earth doesn't get the sun at one stage.
Sure.
Only half of it does. So
Yes,
they
I
just
know.
need to be between the sun and the Earth at the right distance.
I am a spear earther.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just. They block the sun for the whole Earth. Well, the fucking half of it doesn't get it anyway.
I'm not saying it's real hard to do.
You know, they only have to block half of it.
I'm just saying none of the ships are as big as the sun. They have to be a certain distance in order to block out the sun from our view.
Yes.
They
And
have
at
to be
the
a certain
distance we're
closeness.
at now, my thumb will cover it. At the distance we're at now, my thumb will cover it, and I guarantee a ship that size would be able to find the right spot.
I don't know. I haven't done the math.
Well, you should, because you probably could. I wouldn't take 3,000.
I can do the math.
The point I'm trying to say is, you're taking the 3,000 feet as literal because that's how you see it.
Yeah, I haven't finished my argument.
That's the context.
But I haven't finished my argument. And then in Isaiah, it talks about, the people, and they're like around campfires and a water source, and they're all destitute and desperate and crap. And the angel is flying above, six-winged angel. And he's covering up his face and his feet with two pair of wings and flying with the other, kind of saying, I'm a non-talking, I don't have a face, and I don't walk, I don't have feet. I'm just a flying thing. And that same scene, which actually is repeated several times in the text, where like heaven's almost like it's right there. It's like you don't need glasses. It's right there.
Heaven's right
so
there.
Heaven's like
Right.
right there over your head.
That's right. Could you put that down to limited thinking and just thinking the heavens is above you and all the rest of it?
No, see, now we're back to like the actual history of the planet and actual traditions.
No.
of
I'm just.
religions.
It's nothing to
So
do.
yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, it's a definite possibility that the idea of 3,000 feet is because they literally couldn't think, like, because we've watched sci-fi shows and because we've watched all this and because we're educated and stuff like that, we know that space is a three-dimensional thing that you can actually travel through and go there and do all the rest of it, right? And we in our minds can picture Neptune, we can picture the order of the planets. We've all been taught this. We can see this in our mind's eye. The limited education of these people was, dude, this is where we live.
See, now you're back to ancient Near Eastern authorship, which I
Well,
would
Richard,
never
I'm
give
not
value
going
to
to.
that
I'm
idea.
not going to agree with you that this is written by aliens. I am going to
I
fight
understand
that
that.
this is references and things that are written by
That's
men
fine,
on
but
the
that
earth.
just makes this whole thing we're doing a waste of time.
No, it doesn't. I am supposed to
would.
just. No, it doesn't. I am supposed to give reasons and hindsight where this also could come from, and disagree with you. You've told me before. My job is to disagree with you.
No, it is to disagree, but it's to disagree from within an internal critique.
I've always mentioned, you said it earlier and it was fine with it, and you're like, there's Christian thinking. Where I'm coming from. This is the culture I grew up in. I'm not going to just, like, I understand where you're coming from, Richard. But you've also done this show with Tug, and Tug didn't know as much about you as I know about you. Just because we know each other doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and...
I'm not asking you to like comply or anything or even agree with me. It's fine that you don't. I expect you to not agree, and it's actually better, okay? For a lot of reasons, not just for the audience, but for the talking about it. It's better if you don't agree.
You know what, we're actually fighting over? Me making a joke with a different religion and disagreeing over one thing that happened in
No, you keep switching between history and the text. That's what I'm objecting to. I give halves a damn about the history of this planet and the history of religion. I don't even give a quarter of a damn. I don't care about Hitler. I don't care about Pol Pot. I don't care about people feeding each other. I don't care how many people were born. I don't care. I don't care about history. It makes zero difference to me.
Every single show we have done on this, I have made references to other reasons why and how it could be written. What I've done for 3.5, 4 series. I don't know why you're getting really annoyed right now.
Because the lightnings and thunder, we might as well be talking about Thor.
Oh.
and how people thought that Thor was a good explanation for thunder and lightning.
If we
It's
read,
not.
and
It's
if
just
we
not the topic.
no, that particular thing you're mentioning now isn't. But if we were reading them particular ancient stories in maybe series 5 or 6, and it said lightning, I would mention Thor because it's relative then. As the Christian history
Sure.
and how and where it's from and how this possibly could be is relative to the Christian Bible.
Sure. But you wouldn't sit there and tell me, of course, Thor's not real. When we're talking about Thor in a religion talking about Thor. You wouldn't do that, would you?
Tell you Thor's not. I'm not like. No.
Like you wouldn't say, well, Thor doesn't actually explain lightning. Like I don't. We know. We both
I don't
know
know.
that.
I don't know why you would even. I don't know what you're trying to make. I would not say that because that has nothing to do with what was going on here. This could be written either by two things, right? Either
Okay.
crazy old men Christians and that, or your religion. This is what we're discussing. It can be one or the other.
Okay.
And I'm coming from an atheist point of view where I don't think either of it's true. But my culture and my
understand
history
that.
is the Christian one. So I can't help that you think that it's backwards, that I think that because of it. But that's where my history is.
I've never objected to us talking about the difference between my view and the normal Christian view. I've never objected to that. Not one time. I encourage that.
Right? Well, the Christians
I'm
read
not
this.
being purposefully different, but I'm aware that it's different. I want people to be aware it's different. Okay.
I will make references, as I have done for 3 or 4 series, going, would you be open to the possibility of this could be the reason of how it's written? And I'm not limited to only asking Christian views. I'm also, as an atheist, allowed to say it doesn't exist, and I don't believe either your religion or the Christian religion, and I can disagree with both of them and go, here, do you think this could have been written by fucking goat herders and were limited by their knowledge? I'm allowed to ask that question.
Sure. Well,
Don't know why you're annoyed
let me
at me.
recognize primarily it's your show. First of all, it's your channel.
This is our show. No, Richard, I have no relevance in that. I don't like you doing that. This is our show that we've built together.
Well,
and I always refer to this channel as we. You are part of the family. This just may be hosted on my channel. I don't give a shit. We go to your channel and do it every week. I produce over there. I don't care.
That'd be fine too.
I do this to have crack with you. But, you know, I am going to make references where I don't think either of it is true. And I'm going to bring up the possibility that in history, it could be a reason of this.
Well, you know, in history, it could be, but people made up a bunch of religions, that they're completely unrelated, that man is the God maker, that we need to feel like we're part of a bigger thing, and we need someone to be in charge who's perfect, so we make up gods. That could be the case.
Thank you for broad brushing what you think. Like, I'm just...
And a lot of historians would agree with every statement I just made.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dr. Joshua Bowen would agree with that.
Don't give a fuck. Like, it's about me and you having a show here, and I'm supposed to disagree with you, and I'm supposed to give different points of view.
That's fine.
Right? And I'm just saying that the literal, you know, it can be 3,000 feet because it suits their mind. That's how they see it. They can't think in space because they're limited by their knowledge. And you get annoyed at me because I'm bringing up history. But that's a possibility.
Sure, it's a possibility. It's just not an internal critique.
Which is not why I'm here. I'm here to disagree with you and give different possibilities. Sometimes I can do an internal critique in certain points. But I don't know how many times over these last 3 or 4 series that you've said to me, you're just aligning with what the scholars think. And the scholars aren't... the scholars are taking...
I just said it again.
You didn't get annoyed all the rest of the time.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Oh, bother. But I'm going to bring up history. I am going to do that.
That's fine. Okay, I'm going to. You know that I don't think this is historic.
Understand that you believe this is prophetic and that it have happened on a previous planet or
yes,
more.
But just not here. Yeah,
just not.
Yeah, right. Okay. Why is the history of this planet relevant?
Because
other than when the book showed up.
Reading the book.
Yeah. Why is the actual history of the planet relevant, though?
The history of the people who possibly wrote it. Very relevant.
Okay. If people in the ancient Near East wrote these stories, there's no point in talking about them. They're just fictional stories. It's just pieces of literature. It's fiction.
I don't read this as I read this as fiction, Richard.
I know.
I'm doing the point of this show is because number one, from a selfish point of view, I enjoy doing it with you. It's usually good crack.
I enjoy it too,
and you enjoy it, and it helps you, and you get to
like
have your message.
Usually, right there.
Huh?
I love the word "usually" right there. It's usually good crack.
Yeah.
This is not good crack.
No,
I think
right
this
now,
is good crack.
right now, I'm really annoyed because you got a no. I'm
really.
I'm not. I'm just. I feel shot down, sort of, because I've been. Whatever's. You got annoyed because I said the context is what you see in here, and you make that as the. That's how you take that literal. And when I brought up history, you got very annoyed because I made that point. You said context, and I said no. The context is you visually see it, so that's how you pick it as literal, and that's how you don't pick something else. I said picking and choosing, and you got wild pissed off.
I just don't know why we're not doing an internal critique if there's no point in doing it without it being an internal critique.
Certain points we do, Richard. We bit bopping back and forth.
Okay.
Like you've done this show with Tog, who had the Christian point of view. You know, the internal critique is coming, and the internal critique has the ability to do an internal critique. It comes with the knowledge of knowing the other person's side. I have the advantage of. So literally, you can not do this show with anyone else but me. And I don't think that's true. You can do this show and talk about this book with anybody, which you have proven to do.
This doesn't mean they're as valuable as you are, though.
What chapter?
Yeah, I've done this show before.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring up history of the people who wrote it from my point of view. That's my point.
I'm going to live with it.
I'm going to have to. And you have for 3 series. But when I said picking and choosing, you got fucking pissed off.
Picking and choosing. No, I think people have to do that. I think you don't have a choice.
No problem here.
Okay. I'm tired. Let's go ahead and stop wherever we are.
We're on the second angel. Hold on, I'll highlight it so we don't fucking forget, because we'll do that.
That would be lovely. Thank you. That's the hardest part of the show, is figuring out where we stopped.
Well, how many do we get? We got 12 people tonight, so thank you everybody that did come. Oh, we even got Sammy turned up there. Sammy must be awake. He jumped out of a plane at 13,000 is nothing. There are hills. Yeah, well, they're coming down. They're not paying attention, like a boat with the rocks underneath. Scrape the bottom of the ship. Crash land.
Who did a jump of 13,000? Who did that?
Sorry, 1,300.
Oh.
1,300 feet, 3,000 is nothing.
Yeah. All my jumps I did. I'm a 5 jump chump, but that means I just did the school. All of them were 2,500 feet. It's big fun. It's kind of surprising though, because when you hear about it, you think about it, you go in training, blah 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 blah. It ain't what you think it is. It'll still surprise you what it really is to jump out of a plane.
What would you call that guy that did it? Felix somebody. Did you ever watch that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Felix, somebody please look it up. It's on YouTube. I watched it when it first came out. I've made the hairs. He got up in a fucking like low Earth orbit and jumped.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
You know, I think it's been beaten, but they hadn't, filmed it and recorded it and made that emotional response that everyone has. So everybody still remembers Felix. But Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that whole thing on YouTube. It's available on YouTube now.
Yeah. When he just goes to the edge and he says something about his family or whatever, and then he just jumps.
Who sponsored it? Red Bull, I think.
Red Bull. Yeah.
Red Bull sponsored it. Weird enough.
He says 13,000. He's typing 13,000.
Guess he meant it.
The first time it's 1,300, but the last 2 times
it's 13,000. Okay. Is that the Felix jump, 13,000 feet? Is that it? The Red Bull
he
jump?
did it less than 2 weeks ago.
Who?
Sammy.
What are you talking about?
In the audience, in the live chat, Sammy says he jumped 13,000 feet. It gave him a 30.
Sammy Jenkins did a 13,000 foot jump.
He's rid it twice.
Well, I guess he means it.
And he says he only did it 2 weeks ago. It gave him 38 seconds of a free fall.
Yeah, it would.
Okay.
That's crazy.
I haven't looked up what feet you jump out at, but
that's called that in the military. They call that a halo, high altitude, low opening.
Actually, just thinking that, I watched Point Break the other day with Keanu Reeves.
Well, halo would have to be over 14,000, but anyway.
Yeah, no. They were escaping and they did a low jump, and it was about 5,000 feet, 4,000 or 5,000 feet, and that was a low jump. So 13,000 may not be that big,
Well, you know when you get to 14,000 feet, the body starts dying because not enough air.
I don't know what the limit is. I haven't looked into jumping.
You have to have a mask. You have to be breathing canned air above that. That's what the whole climb of, what is it, Everest or whatever? That's why that climb is such a big deal, because you're dying the whole time you're climbing.
Yeah, you need oxygen cans and all that crack. I know all that.
Past the second camp, which is at 14,000, everything above that, you're dying while you climb.
What is it? You chew coca leaves, don't they?
Except for the cocaine. Yeah.
Right. Next week we've nothing, so we'll definitely be back next week. Yeah, definitely be back next week. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yes. You're
getting feistier every week, Richard. Feistier every week.
We'll finish out the book either way, won't we?
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna get, even if by the end of it I want to stab you in the throat, you're still my brother, and we'll get to the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, on that.
And I love you while you stab me in the throat.
If I'm stabbing you at the throat, it wouldn't matter. I don't care, Richard. Don't care. Too many Jesuses. Too many. Right. So, demolish Richard. New sect of Richard's religion. I'm going to be starting that. It's Yellowstone is not going to explode. The entire Earth is breaking up because they don't know gravity.
That's a plausible way to look at it. Yeah.
Thanks all the Patreons, the members, and everybody that's turned up tonight. Everybody that appreciate everybody that does. Thanks, Richard. Love you, hate you. Always a good bit of crack. And we'll see you all back here next week on Full Time. Bye.